All right, it is recording. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to scienTEAfically Speaking. This is Darian of Lab Shenanigans, and today I have my beautiful, wonderful guest, Hudin Jackson, who is a third-year motherfucking neurosurgery resident. Beep, 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 beep. Hey, Hudin, how you doing, girl?
I'm good. You're so ridiculous. I'm good. I'm doing good.
It's we have not seen each other. I feel like every guest that I bring on, I haven't seen y'all in a long time. I think the last time that we saw each other face to face was pre-pandemic.
Yeah, it was a while ago because it was when I think I tried to surprise you in lab. Yeah, it was actually probably my intern. Yeah,
Yes.
it was probably my intern year of residency. So it's probably because right after the pandemic happened, pretty much at the end of my intern year. So that's probably the last time we saw each other.
I remember that because every time you would
Mm-hmm.
try to come in, or that one time you actually did come in, our
Mm-hmm.
PI wasn't there.
Yeah.
And just to preface for our listeners, Hadeen and I, you're a third year resident and I was a research tech. How do we know each other? Well, we used to be in the same lab before our PI actually became a PI. She was a postdoc. And that's when I met you. My first year as a research tech was your year when you had your HHMI fellowship,
Yeah.
which is motherfucking absolutely crazy because also just to preface everything, I like I'm listening to my previous episodes and I'm editing them and I'm like, okay, like these conversations are like dumb funny, which I like, but I'm like, there needs to be some sort of structure because
Mm.
we will go off on tangents. So I've been doing my homework on how to interview people and I started watching Hot Ones. Do you watch that?
Okay. No. Hot. You said hot ones?
Hot Ones, yeah. It's where
Oh, I've
this
never seen that.
it's his YouTube series where this host he sits down with like celebrity guests and they eat
Mm-hmm.
wings. They eat wings and
Oh,
then
okay.
they're like different levels of spiciness for each wing and they work their way up. So the very first wing is like mild and then the next one is like a little spicier and like they have different bottles and the whole point is that like this host is interviewing the guests, but it's also entertaining because you can also see them like choke up because of how spicy the food is. And yeah, it's
Yeah.
so entertaining. But what is so good about this series is how well the host interviews the celebrities. Like he does his
Mm-hmm.
research. Well, I don't know if he does it or like his research team or whatever does it, but he
Mm-hmm.
has very like good in-depth questions of like something that the audience wouldn't even know. And sometimes it even surprises the celebrities because they're like, oh my gosh, like I did that 10 years ago, or I said that 10 years ago. Like, where did you find that quote? Or where did you see this video of me doing this? Or something like that. So anyway, the take home message is that I have been doing my homework and I came in today with today's episode with some prepared questions and I'm ready to ask you, but organically, of course, because I just be like it's an interview. But
Yeah.
also, okay, this is so random. I got a dog, and he is
Oh,
so
really?
yeah, he's so
What kind of
motherfucking.
dog did you get?
He is a husky. He's a husky German Shepherd mix, and
Oh,
he
that's
is
so
so.
beautiful.
His name is Helix, by the way, like Helix
Oh,
Steven.
I love that. You're such a nerd. Of course, you would name your dog Felix.
Okay, so I always get two types of reactions. The first reaction is what just happened, like oh my gosh, it's cute science, and then the non-science people of oh that's an interesting name. Do you mean like Felix? Or I'm like, no,
Oh,
no, no, no,
really?
no, it's not an accident. Like it's on purpose. It's
Mhm.
on purpose. Just to kind of catch up with you like on things. I'm in a new lab now.
Yeah, I saw your post about that recently.
Yes.
Yeah. How is that
Yes.
going?
It is going so well. And I don't want to repeat myself too much on every episode.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I might cut this part out because I
Okay.
said it with my previous two guests, but just
Mm-hmm.
really like I just want to catch up with you. This lab is amazing. Like it is a complete
Mm,
opposite.
okay.
Remember how when we started working together in a lab and we would talk about our undergrad lab a lot, like about how
Mm-hmm.
fun it was and so
Yeah.
chillax? It really is like that vibe right now. And I think because my lab is with Rice University, and maybe because we are
Okay.
like an undergraduate institution, there's a lot of undergrads and a lot of these professors teach like undergraduate students, and so
Mm-hmm.
there isn't like this standard or like level of seriousness like our old institution, because our old
Mm-hmm.
institution that we were at was a medical school, a very prestigious medical school. And you see what I'm doing there? I'm saying was to make it seem as if you don't go there.
Mm-hmm.
So see, I'm doing.
Yeah. No, I get it.
Are you afraid that like if I do include your name, they can just like Google you up?
No, I mean, I don't care. And I mean, it's not like I'm not going to say anything that's like this, whatever about the program. So you're good.
Actually, I'm going to splice the audio clips together so that you
Mhm.
sound like you're shit talking the school. So so at some point
You're
I'm gonna be like,
good.
hey Hadeen, can you say I fucking hate institution name here? And then I'm gonna delete all the audio before that. I'm just kidding. I'm
Oh
kidding.
my
I'm
gosh, I
kidding.
know.
Yeah, this lab, it's just everyone is so laid back, yet everyone is so on top of things. And I really, I really love this environment because I just feel like this is the type of environment that I wish I was in. And it really is helping me
Mhm.
thrive, not in like the research setting, but also just like in life and really with social
Mhm.
media. Because I genuinely believe that if you can treat your workers well, like you're not only going to help enhance their performance in that setting, but just like overall, like with mentally help stimulate them at work and outside of work. Yesterday, I went on a hike with my lab and our PI. I say hike. It's not a hike. It was at Memorial Park. It was a trail, but our PI
So
kept,
you went for a walk.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yes. I'm like building it. I'm like, oh, we went on this really tough hike. It was mentally endearing. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. But, and my PI was just like, I keep saying our PI because I'm still in that mental state of we're still in the same
Mhm.
lab
Yeah, in
together.
the same lab. Yeah.
But my PI, when I told him that, oh yeah, I brought Helix along. And when I told my PI his name is Helix, he got like a good chuckle out of it. And he said, if you have another dog, maybe you can name the first dog like 5' to 3'.
Oh my
I know, I know,
gosh.
I know.
No, that does not work.
And then the next one, the other
No.
dog, 3 to 5.
Oh my gosh. That's taking it too far.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, at that point, the name's not even cute. It's like all the
Yeah.
the non-scientific people are gonna be like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Yeah. It's like you're a weirdo. You're a weirdo.
Do you have any pets?
No, I don't right now. I don't have enough time to take care of an animal. So I have a lot of plants, but I don't have any pets. I do ultimately want to get a dog. I've always wanted a dog since I was a
Ooh,
little kid. So I think I want to get a golden retriever when I have time to like take care
ooh,
of an
a
animal.
golden retriever. So it's funny that you said your pets are plants because I actually wrote that down as a question.
Oh,
And I,
did
I
you?
see, yeah, I see that on Instagram. I see that on Instagram. You're like a plant mom. And I think that's
Mhm.
so cool. I've never owned plants. When did you start taking care of plants?
So it probably I started. It was my intern year. I think probably halfway through my intern year. I really enjoyed the greenery of it. It just really brightens up the space. So I
Come
started
on, green
collecting them.
thumb.
Yeah, I started collecting them probably I would say like 6 or 7 months into intern year.
Yeah.
And it's just really rewarding because it gives you something that it's low maintenance to take care of, but you kind of the care you give into it, you see them growing. And so it's something you can
Yeah.
watch and see kind of flourishing in your space, but then it also livens up the space and it's also alive. So it's really nice. I
Yeah.
have a ton of plants now. I probably have like over maybe like over 60 plants. I have a lot
Wait,
of
can I see?
yeah.
Can I see
Yeah,
right
yeah, I
now?
can
Like,
show you
okay,
some
okay,
of
okay,
them.
okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
our
here is
listeners,
my
our listeners
I
can't
won't be able to see.
see, so
It's okay.
we'll have to be very descriptive. Holy, that's
Yeah.
wow. I feel like I'm in the Amazon forest. Ooh.
I know. I call it like my little indoor jungle. So I have so these are like some pothos here that are kind of like just crawling vining plants. So I have
Yeah.
them growing along the wall. And then I have a
Wait,
bunch of,
how
this
do
is
they
just like
like
a
adhere to the
massive plant
wall? Like,
corner.
is there something that's hooks?
So they're little like the command strip hooks, and you can just put hooks part of the vines, and then they will just kind of, you can guide them to grow along the wall.
Gotcha,
And
gotcha.
and for the most part, they grow better that way because like in the forest or natural habitat, whatever, you typically are like growing along like bigger trees and stuff. So
Yeah.
having them grow along the wall actually helps them grow bigger too, because there
Oh,
it kind of simulates like growing on a big tree or something like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
I can show you, and then I'll show you in my bedroom. I also have a really big climbing plant that I have. It's grown like 360 around this massive mirror I have. So
Yo, that looks like
yeah,
this reminds me of like, you know, those pictures you see on Pinterest of like, ooh,
yeah.
trying to get some inspiration on how to design my room. Like
Mhm.
this is what I'm thinking of. Like that is
Thanks.
exactly the type of picture I'm imagining.
Yeah, it's been really fun, honestly.
Oh, it's also really cool to like reconnect with some of my close friends and see how y'all are thriving. You know, even though we haven't talked in months, it's just so cool to see how we're all thriving in different ways and how we're growing up. Oh my gosh, life. That's
I
life
know
right there.
it's no, it's so true. Literally, my whole because now it's wedding season, right? So every time I go on
Yes.
Instagram, whatever social media, all I just see
Yes.
is like constant stream, like this person getting engaged, this person having kids. I'm
Yeah.
like, wait a minute, we're in that now. We really are in that stage of our lives,
Yes.
which
Yes.
feels weird.
Yes. My friends are getting married. Some of them are having
Mhm.
kids. And I'm like,
Yeah.
dang, while they're getting married, they're getting kids. I'm getting my life together. Like I'm barely getting my life together. It's
No, you're doing fine.
no,
You're
everything y'all
doing
see on social
fine.
media is fake. It's fake. I am actually no. And I also see on social media like you have a boo thing.
Yeah, I do.
Oh, do you want me to,
It's
can we
going
can we
really
can
good.
we talk about it?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, okay. Oh, how long have y'all been together?
It's our anniversary on this Monday, actually.
Wait, anniversary,
Yeah,
like how many months, years?
1 year, 1 year, 1 year.
Girl, oh
Yeah.
my gosh, that's amazing. It's so funny to hear that because I remember when we were in lab and whenever we would grab lunch, we would always talk about like how hard it was to not hard, but I think like being our age, how hard it was to find a relationship. And I make us sound so old, but I feel like as we grow older, it is harder to find relationships in grad school, in medical school. I feel like a lot of people are either already married or taken. And so the pool of
Hmm.
just dating is smaller.
Yeah, there's more variety of thought, definitely. I agree with you. And for me personally, like so many of most of my friends in med school, they had like their partners before med school and stuff, but
Yep.
a lot
Yep.
of people find their person in med school. And for me personally, honestly, medicine consumes so much of my life. I was like, I don't want to be with somebody that's also in medicine.
Yeah.
So he's a computer engineer, so it gives you somebody
Oh,
that has a different perspective.
that sounds sexy
Um,
already.
because like my other friend right now, she's my co-resident, she's dating somebody who's a general surgery resident, and so
Yeah.
like a lot of times that they see each other, it's like in the hospital, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't want that. Like I want some separation
Yeah.
of my life from medicine. Like I don't want my partner to also be like in medicine that we're always talking about, like, oh, this patient, that patient. When I come home, I don't want to be thinking about that,
Yeah.
because you just so much of your life is just that,
Consumed. Yeah.
unfortunately. Yeah,
Yeah.
and there's a lack of balance, and it's easy, I think, in medicine because we're so busy to just find somebody that's also a doctor, because you'll see them in the hospital, and it
Yep.
makes it easy, but then it also makes you not have to make as much of an effort in terms of things that you do to interact with your person.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I
Yep.
didn't want that for myself. So I was like,
Giving me a Grey's Anatomy vibes where okay, I
yeah,
say
I was like, nah, I'm good on that. I don't need any Grey's Anatomy in real life in my life.
the funny thing is I've never seen an episode of Grey's Anatomy, but I kind of get the gist of it because of some of the motherfucking T submissions that people submit.
Oh, really?
They're always saying like how a lot of these submissions are so similar to Grey's Anatomy about like everyone hooking up. And I'm like, okay, well, I guess that's what that show is about, medicine and hooking up. And not to bash on people that do have their like significant others are also like in medicine. I think with you and me, like there has to be boundaries where we just don't want to see our significant other all the time. If anything,
Mm-hmm.
like that space away from your significant other, ironically, can bring y'all closer together.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think I understand why it helps. I mean, one is just the nature of like the space that you're in. Those are the people you interact with a lot. And then also two, nobody really understands what you're going through 100% other than somebody that's also in medicine. And even people like even with different subspecialties, right? Like neurosurgery is like one of the most rigorous and grueling. So, somebody that's in internal medicine is not going to really understand the same thing that I'm going through. And so I think people do gravitate towards that because it's like, well,
Yeah.
you understand if I'm like up at 4 o'clock and I'm not getting home until like 11 or 12 or stuff
Yeah.
like that. So I think people gravitate towards that level of understanding in a partnership too. But I need some degree of understanding, but also some variety of thought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think also it's just like a good way to talk to your significant other and just like talk about your day because they obviously don't know what happened. It really is. It allows you to have more conversations with your significant other. When I started dating I didn't tell you, I have a boyfriend.
Wait!
Oh! See?
Oh my gosh! Okay, now I need to get the catch up. Let's see. Still it.
I feel like every episode I kind of like sprinkle like my boyfriend
in there like it was nothing.
Yeah. We started talking August 22nd, and then we actually started dating officially as boyfriends November 19th. So
okay.
Yeah. So I think our 4 months just passed. And by the time that I release this episode, it's probably going to be like May. So I think at that point it's going to be our 6 months. So
yeah.
So by the time my listeners, if I do decide to keep this clip in the episode, by the time that y'all listeners listen to this, it might be our 6 months already. But right now it's we just passed our 4 months, and then our 5th month, our 5 months is coming up in 10 days. That's crazy. Today is April 9th. I like to record all these episodes ahead of time. So yeah.
Oh, I'm so excited for you. That's funny because I remember when we were in lab together, we always used to be talking about that, like how hard it is to date and stuff like that. So I'm so happy that you also found somebody. That's awesome. That makes me really happy.
Double date, triple date.
Wait, yes. Wait, triple. Oh, yes. Yeah, we should. Yeah.
Is Paul still Houston?
Canada.
Yeah.
They're moving June, I want to say. Like June is officially when they have to like leave because of their work visa and stuff. So yeah, we're trying to do something in maybe April, and then also maybe sometime again in May. So we should all try to see each other before they leave. I'm so sad that they're going.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So y'all want to hear about my toxic trait? My toxic trait, and I'm sure you're aware of this. I'm sure a lot of my friends are aware of this. But I will do this thing where I'll say, "Oh my gosh, like I haven't seen you forever. Like we should hang out." And then I end up not hanging out with the other person because I feel like sometimes I just feel, I won't say overwhelmed, but like I'm juggling a lot of things. And so it's always like busy. And the moment that I have some downtime to myself, I just want to spend that time to like relax. But I definitely feel so like lucky and fortunate to have good friends that are just like, y'all are so understanding that I'm sure like when you have some downtime, you just want to be by yourself and you just want to like binge watch on Netflix and stuff. And actually I've been doing that. I've been binge watching.
Yeah. What are you binge watching right now?
Is it Cake? Yes.
Is that good? Dude, Netflix, I love Netflix for all the funny reality shows. Yes. I just binge watched The Ultimatum. So
Okay.
Yes.
I tried watching The Ultimatum because I fell into the Love is Blind rabbit hole.
Yeah.
And the hosts, at the reunion of Love is Blind season 2. And so I was like, ooh, the concept sounds good. So I watched the first episode of The Ultimatum, and it's just, I don't know. Okay. I'm very picky when it comes to like editing. And so I do not like the cheesy music that's played. And I think it's a little bit, maybe episode 1 is just a little bit too slow for me. And so I think it's so slow that it just didn't reel me in yet. Maybe I have to like push through the first episode and watch the second episode. But I think the concept is very interesting.
Yeah, it's a hot mess express show. And it's just when you want to watch some mad and laugh. It's a show to watch.
Girl, the gain.
That's what I've watched to kind of just like let my brain just like melt and not think about things.
Girl, you know us gays. We love hot messes. Like every time you see a hot mess, we gravitate towards it.
Yeah, that show is a straight up hot mess. I think there's one more episode that comes out next week or something.
Yeah.
That's like the finale it hasn't come out, so I have to watch that. But it's so mad.
I think they released the first couple of episodes and then they've been releasing everything weekly, right?
Yeah, correct. They've been releasing weekly. It's such a bizarre concept to me. It's like, also, a lot of the people in the show are young. They're like 23, 24, talking about an ultimatum after they dated somebody for a year. I'm like, what are you talking about?
That's another thing that turned me off. There was a couple that like, I think one of them is a college student, right?
Yes. I was like, you're in college and you're trying to pressure. Well, the girl had graduated from college, but she was trying to pressure her man to age her and he was still in college. I was like, look, homie doesn't even have a job. He's trying to get his degree.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like, what are you rushing for?
I feel like at that age, I didn't even have my life together. I'd probably say like around 25 was when that's okay.
I mean, maybe I had my life. Let me not lie.
Okay, let's this is a good segue because I want to talk about the elephant in the room. Okay. I want to talk about the elephant in the room that you are a motherfucking neurosurgery resident. And I didn't understand how hard it was to get into that program until our previous PI wrote that letter of rec for you. And because our previous PI was or is a physician scientist, they've been through that MD, PhD route. And so they understand the rigor of both going to grad school and medical school. And they gave me some insight about like the different, what do you call rotations or different, I don't know, what do you call it?
Residencies? Is that?
I guess, I don't know. Well, yeah. Well, it was a combination of you and her that gave me an idea of how hard it is to get into the neurosurgery residency program. Is that right to say?
Yeah.
Obviously,
yeah.
I'm not in medical school, but
you're good.
The institution that you're at right now, they only accepted 3 or 4 students.
For now, we're one of the bigger programs. So we took starting my year, we've been taking four residents a year. But typically most neurosurgery residency programs take between like 1 to 3 per class. So it's like one of the more like
one.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. That just blew my mind. But at the same time, I'm like, girl, I'm happy for you, but I'm not surprised. because you are like, and I'm going to gas you up. I'm going to put you on the pedestal. You are, what I really admire about you, what made me like you immediately is that you have such like a very like attractive personality, both physically and internally. But you have such like an attractive personality and you're so easy to talk to. And I think that was very important for me coming into the lab environment that we're in, where it was very, compared to my undergrad lab, it was just very high pressure and there was just so much stress going on. And I think you and I were kind of on the same boat, but I think you were very chillax about it and you got your shit together. You've been having your shit together. Coming in, I just felt, I guess, a little bit lost as a research tech. I thought that a lot of the research that was being done in that lab was just so like exponentially more difficult than what I had learned in undergrad. So talking to you allowed me to grasp the concepts and the research much better, but also seeing how laid back and smart you were was like, you were like a role model for me to try to be like that, you know? I mean, it manifested in honestly like lab shenanigans where I'm like, but for real though, like, and I'm not saying this just because like to like throw compliments at you, but in an alternate universe, if you weren't in that lab, I probably would have like been so miserable and probably just honestly given up on science and probably try to do something else. And you made me very hopeful about myself and like, you know, I can still pursue science. I can keep going with this. And so that was like the type of really like figure that I needed at the time.
Oh, thank you.
So yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
You're definitely like the type of person that I always like brag about to other medical students. So if I ever see like a medical student at your institution, I always ask like, oh, do you know my
Oh,
friend?
really?
Yeah. And in fact, someone, who was it? I asked someone. They just rotated in the neurosurgery residency, and I
Mhm.
asked them, but it wasn't them. It was like either their significant other or someone that they knew. And I asked if they knew you. Y'all briefly talked, but I'm trying to think who, and it's slipping my mind. It's slipping my mind right now. Anyway, if it comes back, we'll circle back to this.
That's okay.
But anyway, so you're in your third year of
Mhm.
residency. How is it so far?
So it's hard. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, but I think the first 2 years were definitely the hardest, but third year has gotten better. One, because like you're more comfortable with things and then you're just operating more consistently.
Yeah.
So the first couple of years, a lot of it is like holding the pager and like running around doing a lot of like floor things. And if you go into a surgical specialty, what you love is the surgery, right? So
Yeah.
for somebody like me who chose like the most difficult surgical specialty to go into, I want to be in the operating room. So
Yeah.
first year could kind of be challenged. You can, you go in as when you have availability based on what you get done on the floor, but not as much
Yeah.
as you'd like. So third year is nice now. Second year and third year, you start being more consistently doing surgeries. And now I'm starting to see like my progress in terms of my level of confidence in the OR,
Oh,
things that
love
I'm
that.
like comfortable doing, and
Yeah.
like just my overall surgical skills. And it's really fun, honestly. Like the cases, there are a lot of cases are like challenging and a lot of complex anatomy and stuff, but I think that's what I like and love the most about it.
Yeah.
The hours can be ridiculous, but you just it's like I just keep telling myself this residency is a temporary portion of this process, and like once I finish, at least I'll be more in control of my schedule. It's just the training
Yeah.
process is more grueling than once you get through that hurdle,
And
things get better. So
why do you think that is? And it's probably a very naive question to me, but why do you think that residency is the hardest year during this whole journey so far?
yeah, I think one part of it is the learning curve, because when you come out of medical school, you kind of have like a general medical knowledge, but then when you subspecialize, there's like a huge like leap. Especially for me, I came from a medical school that didn't have a neurosurgery residency program, so I didn't have as much exposure to neurosurgery as like people coming from programs, medical schools that did have that.
Mm-hmm.
So there was like a big jump of information that I need to like learn and get, just knowing about neurosurgery, that obviously I'm still learning. It's a constant process. Even once you finish residency, you're still constantly learning about your field and things are constantly changing. So I think that's one big thing. And then part of it, I think, is just trying to condense a lot of intensive training to make you be somebody that can be practicing independently.
I
It does
see.
require a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
I do think there's a healthier way to go about it. I think residency is designed in a way that almost weeds out people that
Yeah.
can't hang, which
Yeah.
I don't think it should be like that. I think there's a healthier way to go about like structuring the hours and still training people effectively.
Mm-hmm.
That we haven't yet gotten to that point. Like right now, the ACGME has like, okay, 80-hour work hour restrictions, which nobody's really following. If you're in a surgical specialty, nobody's working 80 hours. Even 80 hours is obnoxious for most people
Yeah.
that work 9 to 5, you're working 40 hours. Like our work hour restriction is double what the average person is working, and even
Mhm.
beyond that, we're all working more than that, right?
Oh gosh.
So it's just that itself, the hours and the schedule make it really challenging, because you're just
Yeah.
like, as much as you love something, if you're physically exhausted all the time, it's
Yeah.
hard to really enjoy it all the way. So I think there's changes that need to happen. It will take like a big overhaul across like a lot of residents have to come together to make
Yeah.
some significant changes in terms of like the way everything is structured and organized. But that's something that needs to change, I think, for sure.
It makes me wonder if there are any like paper that studies the different how long hours can affect like mental capacity in residency.
Yeah, I think there definitely have been studies looking at like kind of obviously like the effects of like sleep deprivation and stuff on residents, but the big thing is all of this is money driven, right?
Oh,
Like
the gag.
that's really the
Yeah.
honest truth. If that like financial component doesn't also shift or
Yeah.
whatever, or if like a big enough group of residents really are like, this is not what it is, what it needs to be, no like long standing changes will happen. I think it'll take a lot. It'll take a lot for there to be like significant residency reform.
Yeah.
And it just takes a lot of people that are, I guess, willing to kind of risk some of their, things in their job to be able
Yeah.
to, make some changes.
Do you think once you're out of residency and then you
Oh, once you finish, you're an attending. So right now I'm a resident
oh,
doctor, and then when
okay.
I'm an attending.
Okay, so then
So
okay, so I actually hear the word attending a lot. And I didn't know what it meant, but that makes a lot of sense. Okay,
yeah,
so you were an attending for how many years?
pretty much that's it. Once you
Oh,
finish, so
like
you're a
you're
resident for that's you're an attending forever until you decide to not practice medicine anymore.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
That actually
Yeah.
I hope my listeners have the same exact question because I hear the word attending all the time from like other like from medical doctor content creators, and I'm like, I don't know
Mhm.
what that means. And honestly, there hasn't been like a inclination for me to Google it. So
No, it's fine.
so
You're good.
okay. And so once you become an attending, um, is that like an avenue that you want to further explore, like go down where you want to try to change?
Like residency stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if I stay in academia, it would be something that I want to do because I think it would help, even just like overall like programs for like resident wellness. I think my place has something like that, but I don't necessarily think everything is as accessible as it can be.
Yeah.
So I think that would be helpful to just focusing on that. I know different programs have like different degree of wellness programs, which I think are important to institute. So that's something I think there's a lot of stuff that can be changed.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. It's probably too early to ask this, but if you are wanting to go down that route, are you wanting to stay in, should I say the city? Are you planning to stay in Houston
Well,
or even like stay in the same institution to try to make a change in this place or go somewhere else?
I don't know. I don't think I probably don't want to practice as an attending where I did my residency.
Hmm.
That's just for me personally, because I think part of it is a lot of sometimes people will still kind of see you as a resident, at least for a period of time, because
Yeah.
they kind of have to transition their mindset about you. So I think it would be nice to go somewhere different where I'm kind of starting new.
Yeah.
And I'm not restricting myself to a specific city or anything like that.
Hmm.
I'll kind of see where I end up and get a job after I
Hey,
finish.
not to shit on Houston. You see, I was born and
You
raised
don't
in.
like Houston?
Well, I
Oh,
was
well, you
born.
lived
Okay,
here a
yeah, I
while,
was
so
born and raised. I know I'm a Texas girl. I was born and raised in Houston. Went to school in Austin, and now I'm back in Houston. And I'm just like, I'm ready. I'm ready to like live out my city dreams and move somewhere
Mhm.
bigger. It's just I feel like I've done so much. I've done everything that I wanted to do in Houston, and I just kind of got bored. So definitely, I
Mhm.
want to like visit and live somewhere else. I've been thinking Cali, but
Yeah.
it's expensive. It's so
Yeah, I love
expensive out.
California, but it's expensive. I know my cousin lives out there in San Francisco.
I would love
Yeah.
San Francisco. It's like gay central. Like that's where I want to. Also, okay, I'm sorry to stop this abruptly. I gotta pee. This could be
No,
a
you're
real good
good.
break.
Yeah, you're good. Go ahead.
Oh, Houston, San Francisco, gay central. That's what we're talking about.
Mhm.
Yeah, I would
Yeah.
I would love to live there or live somewhere else than Houston. I'm really interested in your residency journey. On the podcast, I've talked to several medical students now, but they're like in different parts of their journeys. We've had like a
Mhm.
first year medical student, third year, and I think one is getting ready to apply for residency programs. So you
Mhm.
were the very first person on this podcast that is a resident, more specifically a neurosurgery resident. So you've been through it all, getting into medical school, passing your STEP exams, doing wet
Mhm.
lab research, applying for residency. So far, what has been like the hardest part of your journey?
Ooh, the hardest part of my journey of getting into residency.
Yeah, everything up to this
Hmm.
point.
That's actually a really good question. Geez, I feel like I've got through so many hard
No,
things.
because it like just like that's a tough question because it wasn't hard at all.
No, it's the opposite. It's like no, the opposite. Not even. I think so. Overall, for me, probably the hardest thing was coming from kind of a lot of it comes because I was coming from a place that didn't have a residency program. So a lot of it was kind of figuring things out on my own of like how to go about getting into a neurosurgery specifically residency program. What were the things that were required? And I was also at a college that they didn't have as strong like neuroscience research.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't have the opportunity to do a lot of research that I needed to be able to get into residency. So that was one of the things that was the reason why I did the Howard Hughes Fellowship, because I knew I needed like dedicated time
Yeah.
to do heavy intensive research. And then I also wanted to go to a place where they had a strong neurosurgery residency program, since I was coming from a place that didn't. So at least I could do some networking that way.
Yeah.
So that's what I ended up doing. And
Yeah.
I made
Yeah.
like connections with that department.
Uh-huh.
So that kind of became like my surrogate residency program
I
in the
see.
process of applying for a neurosurgery residency.
That
And
is
that
so
was really
smart.
helpful, because then I got a lot of like guidance and support through that avenue that I didn't have from my home institution. So I think that was probably for me the most challenging part of kind of just trying to steer and figure
Yeah.
out this whole process pretty much on my own. Because I didn't have that from where the school I was coming from. So I think people that have their own home institution that has a residency program, it's super helpful. Like I see the med students in my residency
Mm-hmm.
that like in my school, the number of papers that they're reading and like the research they're on, how involved they are in the department. And I'm like, I didn't have that, so
Yeah.
that makes it so much easier. And it's hard because you don't know when you're applying for medical school what specialty you want to go into. So I think something that I wish I would have known when applying for medical school, or even choosing where I went for medical school, was trying to choose a place that had all, if not almost all, of the residency subspecialties. So no matter what I chose, I would have like a department support that was already in the academic
Yeah.
setting.
Oh.
So it's hard to predict that though, but I didn't know that I was going to choose something like so kind of hyper specialized or whatever. So it
Yeah.
would have been helpful to have more support in that area, which I think that's something that for med students or people applying is like helpful advice that I didn't have.
I'm learning a lot. I've known you for quite a while, and I didn't know all this. Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Then again, when we're in lab, like the last thing we want to talk about is like lab stuff.
I know.
And now that we're both not in lab anymore, it's like I'm interested in learning about this.
Yeah, no.
I feel like that's how I am too, where when I was in middle and high school, I didn't like history. I had no interest in history whatsoever. But now I think it's so interesting to learn about the history of certain scientists and how certain things, were discovered. And I think that was really a bridge for me to get back into learning history. Now I love history, which is insane. But I think that's so cool. And I think you really brought up a really good point of networking. Oh my gosh, my allergies literally eating my ass. But I think you brought a really good point of like networking, where we always hear the word networking in college, and always trying to make friends, network with people that work in these companies because they can always, help you out. And it really is important for both of us. How we've got to where we are right now is really networking. I think I kind of just networked by accident, but you, girl, you did your homework and you like looked ahead. And I actually do remember a bit of that, where you were talking with our previous PI. They were very on board to help you try to connect with other doctors in the program in the institute. So I think it's really impressive on your part for doing your homework.
Yeah, no, I think, it's important.
All right. So before we end this episode, Hudin, do you have any advice for our listeners?
I think something that I've been learning and working on throughout like this whole process, medical school and now in residency, is just balance.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times that can be lost in more rigorous career paths like medicine or doing like science or just PhD stuff. So I think finding things in and outside of work that bring you joy and passion.
Yes.
And not losing sight, especially in medicine and science, just STEM period, finding creative outlets, because you need that.
Yes.
Like for me, it's like doing like the plant thing, interior design. So I'm not only fully consumed in STEM, like that gives me a nice healthy outlet, which I think everybody should do. So balance is key. Don't lose yourself in STEM.
Oh, snap.
That would be my little tidbit advice.
For me, when I went on this quote unquote hike yesterday with my lab, our PI wanted to take a group picture. And he was mentioning like, oh, maybe right now is not a good time because the lighting's really harsh, and then contrast brightness, blah, 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 shutter speed, blah, blah, blah. And as a joke, I was like, okay, come on, photography. And
Yeah, I've also been doing photography too. I've been getting into that as well.
and then the lab members are like, oh no, like he loves
Mhm.
photography, like he does it on the side. And I'm like,
Mhm.
what? A PI
Yeah.
a PI having interest outside of STEM?
Yes.
What? And
And it
so
shouldn't be crazy like that at all. Like that should be normal, right? Like I
yeah,
think that should be
yeah,
normal.
yeah.
No, that's good. I'm glad that he does that. That already tells me that's a healthier
Yeah.
lab environment for you.
As dumb and as normal as that sounds, for
Mhm.
me, that was just mind blowing.
Mhm.
I had to take a step back and really just appreciate that my PI does have an interest outside of lab. Those are really good advices. And if my followers want to follow you, where can they find you? Do you want me to mention this or no?
Yeah, you can. It's
I'm gonna backtrack. So just for
hold on, because my Instagram is like a weird whatever one, so I don't even remember how I spelled
no,
it. It's spelled weird.
I just remember
Um,
serendipity. Serendipity.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay, it is. That's what it is. It's serendipity, but it's spelled weird with a dot in between
Wait,
the
wait,
N
wait,
and the
wait,
D.
let me backtrack. Let me do my little.
Okay. Okay.
Now you know what goes behind the scenes of these podcasts.
I know. That's why you have. That's why you edit. A
Yes,
little
yes,
snippet,
yes,
snippet
yes.
here and there.
All right, Hadid, if my listeners want to follow you, where can they find you?
So I'm on Instagram. It's serendipity. It's spelled a
Serendip.
little weird because the serendipity handle was already taken.
Oh yeah,
So there's a
yeah.
dot in between the D and there's an extra I after the P.
Yes, SEREN.DIPIITY. I'll also include it in the description, so no worries. Hadeen, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to talk about this. It is so good catching up with you. I am so down for this triple date.
Yes, we have to schedule it.
Yes, yes, yes. I really want to visit the actually let's end the recording.